Well, even though Game of Thrones has been on their mark this season, this episode reminds us that there will always be a few duds. Hey guys, camera for Game of Thrones Season 6, Episode 8, No One. I was really looking forward to this episode. The season has just been fantastic lately, and especially after last week's episode, we're looking forward to seeing how things would go here. And let me just say right off the bat, this was not a terrible episode. It was just compared to everything else this season, it was really predictable and really underwhelming. A lot of storylines ended in this episode before they even started, I think, and the directions that they went in this episode are very predictable. Now, does it ruin the plot line? Does it ruin the show? No. I think, we still have 2 episodes. Next week's episode looks epic as hell. I think it's going to be awesome, but this episode just wasn't what I want out of this show. This was more of just a more not low-key, that's not the word, but just a much more predictable Game of Thrones than I would have wanted, and I think focused very well in the first half of this episode. I really like it. Was just the end of this episode, things felt very rushed and things like that, but let's just get into it because there were some good things here. Not a lot of really good things, but there were definitely some good things in this episode. Starting off with the first scene, which I really did enjoy. We see Lady Crane, basically the actress who Arya failed to assassinate. Of course, this was the person that Arya was told to kill, and she didn't. And she does basically what Arya told us to do. She takes her scene a little more seriously. She's giving a much more impassioned soliloquy, using the advice she got from Arya last episode. And it's a really good scene. I like the bonding between Lady Crane and Arya, and it's something that I was really hoping we could get more into. And after the play is over, she heads to the back, finds Arya hiding, bleeding from the stab wound she recovered from the waif last episode, because we know, of course, the waif was this close to killing Arya last week. She didn't, but obviously she was this close to killing Arya. And the actress patches Arya up, offers the girl a spot, and even offers her a spot in her troop, and you can really see the way these two are bonding. And I think for a second, Arya really thinks this could be her life, that she could be in this troop. And Arya says she wouldn't be safe as long as the waif is after, because obviously the waif is there to kill Lady Crane. That's why she's there. She's there to kill Lady Crane. She's after her, and it's not going well for any of them. And so she wants to go to the edge of the world, as there's nothing left for her in either Essos or Westeros. And you can see that Lady Crane really does want to help her, that she thinks that this is the best thing for her to do, that, basically, nothing's going to kill her, that she's safe with her, and it's a really nice scene. I like the bonding between these two. I like that we got a lot of really good development there in this episode, and it was a really good way to start things off. I really love everything we've been getting for Lady Crane and with Arya, especially the way that Arya has encouraged her to just become a better actress, and you can tell they really have learned more from each other. Arya's learned that she doesn't want to be this assassin, basically, and I think Lady Crane has learned, she doesn't really want to be like Jay Quinn and like the waif, she wants to be her own person, and Lady Crane, she wants to be an actress, and she wants to be a really good actress, and it's a very well done scene. It just is kind of ruined by the end of this episode, and I'll get into that. But then we see the Hound. He quickly kills the Brotherhood without a group of the Brotherhood without banners, wiping them all up with an axe in brutal fashion. And I understand, obviously, that we got to this, but there really was no build-up, and I would have wanted a little bit more build-up than we got. I don't think we got necessarily enough build-up here, because it wasn't bad what we got. It's just, after what we got last week, I think I was expecting a little bit more from this, and right away he's just killing people. Alright, it just didn't really go anywhere, because he's killing people I don't really care about, so alright. A lot of people said the Hound was a one-off last week. It clearly was not a one-off. There's definitely more with the Hound that they want to explore. But this episode, I just didn't really like what they did, and I felt it was way too rushed. And just like the rest of this episode, I thought a lot of this episode was just very, very rushed. And that's a big part of why I did not like this episode as much as I wanted to. So a Red Priestess then spreads the word in Meereen that Daenerys is the Lord of the Light. Tyrion says goodbye to Varys, who's heading back to Westeros on a secret mission. And again, like I said, a lot of arcs end in this episode. One of the big ones is Tyrion and Varys. Varys is now going to Westeros, and Varys says that they need friends in Westeros and ships, so Tyrion says they need their queen even more. And they could not need Daenerys more than they need her now. I mean, really, they're in a dire state. They know that there are obviously people coming to attack, and Tyrion doesn't really know what to do about it. And that's probably my favorite stuff in this episode, is with Tyrion. His stuff was great, as usual. His Tyrion stuff was great, but I thought his stuff was very well done here. But also really well done was Cersei. I thought her stuff was fantastic in this episode, what they did with it. Probably one of my favorite parts in this episode. episode was everything they did with Cersei. But back to Tyrion, I really like the way that Tyrion is trying to do this, because he knows that as good as he, as much as he can't really control this from happening. Daenerys is someone that they need right now, because Tyrion doesn't really know how to handle this kind of situation. That's something I do like seeing, is while I've said Tyrion I think is a very good, ruler of Meereen, with something like this, he really doesn't know how to control it, and I definitely really did like seeing that. So really good stuff there. Qyburn then tells Cersei that the Faith militant have arrived in the Red Keep and they wish to see her, and the Faith militant members tell her that the High Septon wishes to see her in the High Sept, and when she refuses, they try to take her by force, that basically they're going to force her there, and she's saying that she's not going to do anything until after her trial, because that will guarantee if she really does need to be exiled, because as we know, a lot of people are leaving. Lady Olenna's leaving, Marjorie's leaving, and Cersei, she might be leaving too. And the Mountain rips off one of their heads with his bare hands, and it's a crazy scene. I mean, she literally says that she chooses violence, and the Mountain literally rips off one of their heads off with his bare hands. Really graphic stuff, really to show that Cersei, but the thing I didn't like here is that it made it seem like Cersei hasn't learned anything from what she has, and the rest of the season it seemed like she has, and Cersei was just, I think, a bit out of character here. It felt more like we're going back to the old Cersei, and that's something I really don't like. I really like this season, the way that Cersei has realized the mistakes that she's made, and she's trying to correct said mistakes, but now it seems like she's not trying to do that, and that was something that I really did not like. I really was not a fan of as much as I wanted to be, but I do like the outcome of what happens here. We'll get into that a little bit later. But Brienne and Pod then arrive at River Run, which is still surrounded by Lannister forces, and Brienne tells the Lannister soldiers she wishes to speak to Jaime, and at the camp, Pod reunites with Bronn, who wants to know if Jaime and Brienne are lovers, which I love the discussion where Bronn is saying, I'd fuck her, and Pod is asking if he would, and Pod's like, I'm her sidekick. I thought that was really funny, and I like the way they incorporate humor there. I've always really liked Brienne and Pod stuff. It's always a lot of fun. We didn't get any Brienne Tormund stuff, which I hope we do get more of, because I think that's really fun. Bronn then gives Pod tips on how to fight dirty, and it's kind of a fun scene. I like the way that was done. But meanwhile, Jaime and Brienne find themselves on very different sides, as Brienne wants to the Blackfish and the Tully army, but Jaime is responsible for breaking the siege. And the way things looked last week, it seemed like this was going to go in a much different direction than it did. It seemed like Jaime was going to ally with Sansa and with Jon. We never have the conversation here, though. There's no point where Jaime's like, oh, I want to go ally with the Starks. There's no point where he really says that. And Brienne convinces Jaime to let her go into River Run and offer safe passage to the entire Tully army in exchange for leaving the castle to the Lannisters. And basically that's what, that's what they need to do, that he needs to offer safe passage to the entire Tully, and then the castle will be left to the Lannisters, and Brienne offers back her Oathkeeper to Jaime, but he refuses and says the sword is hers, that this was her sword, she's used it. If you remember, she was the one that trained Jaime and gave him the sword in the first place, and now he feels that she deserves that sword, and I think it's a really nice scene. I like the way that's done, and it does show how different these two really are. When Brienne then enters River Run, the Blackfish refuses to leave. Even after reading Sansa's letter, he says that he can't help Sansa retake Winterfell, and that's the thing that Sansa wants. She wants Winterfell all for herself, and unfortunately her request is denied here, and it's really sad, but I feel like it's in the end. Brienne, as we know, she's someone that doesn't take no for an answer, and I feel like Brienne is definitely going to make sure that Sansa gets what she wants her, and she's going to make sure that she does get Winterfell, because that's something that Sansa really wants, and I did like the way that was done. So Cersei then enters the throne room to listen to King Tommen make a pronouncement, and probably the worst possible situation that could happen to Cersei happens in this episode. Her uncle Kevin refused to let her stand behind him, and Tommen announces that Cersei's trial will take place later that month, and also that he is banning the practice of trial by combat. Now, I kind of understand why he's doing this. Now, look, we've talked about before that Tommen is not really a good king, and that he's really not that smart. This does reassure us of that, but at the same time, I get his point here. Think of what happened the last trial by combat. Nothing good came out of it. Oberyn was crushed like a tomato. Oberyn died, and I do get what he's trying to do, that really violence is not the answer here, and he feels a regular trial should happen, and it immediately puts Cersei at a disadvantage, because we know the amount of people that are against Cersei, and the fact that a trial is not going to determine her faith, and it's more putting it into the people, really is is a big disadvantage for Cersei, and really, just really this is really dissatisfying for her, because now all these people who are probably against her, they're going to get people to even turn, they're going to get a lot of people to turn against her. She doesn't have any fans really, and this cannot end well for Cersei at all. I do not see this going well, and while I do feel bad for her, at the same time, she does kind of deserve for everything she's done. I definitely do like that we saw that here, and I think Cersei does realize partially that, but at the same time, she really does want to, be free, and she wants to get back the land. She wants power and everything, and that's something I don't think Cersei's ever going to get. I think this episode implies that Cersei's reign of power is over, and she's really not even getting it back. Even from her son, she's not getting it back, which really sucks. So Tyrion has a drink to celebrate Meereen's seeming stabilization, and you can tell he's basically trying to distract Grey Worm and Missandei. He toasted Daenerys with Grey Worm and Missandei, then attempts once again to make small talk with the two. Kind of a funny scene, the way that he's just exchanging jokes, and they don't really realize it's a joke. He succeeds in breaking the ice with the pair, but when they're interrupted by alarms going off in the city, inform them the Masters have arrived in the harbor for their property, and now there is no joking around. The Masters are there, they want their property, and this isn't going to end well for anyone, because again, he doesn't really know how to handle the situation. That's very well shown here, and I thought that was definitely one of the best arcs in this entire episode. So then we get this really big scene with Jaime, but the way this just ended, it did feel kind of underwhelming. Now, I do like what we saw here. He apologized to Edmure Tully for his treatment, offers him a better life in exchange for convincing his uncle to surrender, and basically that's what he wants to do. He wants to convince his uncle to surrender, and Edmure, of course, doesn't take the bait. He asks Jaime how he can sleep at night because he doesn't trust Jaime one bit, and we know why Jaime's doing this. He's doing this because he doesn't want, his uncle to hurt his men, obviously, and basically he asks Jaime how he can sleep at night, knowing all the terrible things that he's done. Because even though Jaime wasn't, exclusively part of the Red Wedding, his sister still was, and he didn't try to stop her at any point. And Jaime tells him that he admired Catelyn Stark, especially her love for her children, and Edmure says not to speak of her. He then threatens to kill Edmure's baby son unless Edmure convinces his uncle to surrender. And the lengths that Jaime is going to make sure that all of his men are safe, I mean, it's crazy to see what he has to do, but it makes sense as well, because obviously he wants his men to be okay, he wants his men to be able to be safe, and he wants to make sure that his men are safe, and he's doing whatever he can to make sure that happens. And I thought that was a very well done scene. That night, Edmure walks to the gates of Riverrun, demands entry. The Blackfish tells the Tully army not to let him in, but the Tully soldier says that he's not the rightful lord of Riverrun, and after Edmure's inside, he immediately tells the Tully army to surrender, which allows Jaime to take the castle without a fight, and basically the castle's his. It's his, and Edmure tells his men to capture the Blackfish, so the Blackfish dies fighting off-screen, which is really weird for Game of Thrones. I mean, I don't think we've heard of characters dying off screen. I'm sure we have before, but for someone like the Blackfish, it felt really strange just have him die off screen. I mean, this is Game of Thrones we're talking about. Why would you have a character die off screen? I have no idea why they did that. That felt very bizarre. Lannister forces, after helping, after Blackfish dies fighting Lannister forces after helping Bran and Pod escape, which again, we didn't see at all. And I just thought it was really bizarre that the Blackfish just died off screen. I don't really think we've seen that before. So then we get to the really predictable stuff. After this, I think things get really predictable. We see the Masters lay siege to Meereen, bombarding the city with flames, and inside the pyramid, Grey Worm and Tyrion argue how to defend the city, but Daenerys literally flies in on her dragons to take command, and Daenerys is there to save the day. It felt like a superhero movie, it really did. I mean, this was honestly really cheesy. You knew Daenerys was going to get back there. You knew because of who Daenerys was, she would get there exactly at the right time to help them, and it just felt really convenient, and Game of Thrones is not a show that goes in convenient plot lines. I don't really think that's how this show should be. I think the way things end with Cersei, that is the kind of heartbreak and dread that this show relies on, not convenient plots, and that's all this was. This was only done for convenience for Tyrion and Grey Worm, so Tyrion obviously doesn't die. Do I want Tyrion to die? No, Tyrion's probably my favorite character on this show, obviously, but I mean, Daenerys just randomly flying in there. I would have kind of wanted to see Tyrion take charge and kind of lead a rebellion on his own. I would have wanted him to do that, but unfortunately he didn't get to do that. Daenerys is now clearly going to take back the city, and it's going to be interesting to see how that all works out. There's definitely going to be some clashing between the two, and I'm really hoping we see more of that. What happens with Tyrion and Daenerys? I'm looking forward to seeing how that's all going to turn out, because I think that's going to be really interesting. So the Hound then runs into Beric, Dondarrion, and Thoros of Myr, the leaders of the Brotherhood without banners. They prepare to hang the men who attacked the Sept, and the Hound demands that he be allowed to kill them, and Beric arouses him to kill 2 out of respect for his loss, and afterwards Beric offers him a place in the Brotherhood, and it seems like he is going to join the Brotherhood, which is interesting to see if that's where he's going. And then we get to the end of this episode, which I just thought was really predictable. The way this is going, this is exactly where I thought this would go, and it just felt like this ended before it started, because Lady Crane wakes Arya up right before the wave shows up, and you're thinking, alright, Lady Crane's going to protect Arya, everything's going to be fine here. But nope, the wave then kills Lady Crane, so that arc's over, and I'm really wondering what the point of it was, because what it made it seem like to me is that Lady Crane was going to offer Arya a role in the troop, and that she would end up becoming part of that troop and everything, and that she would become, trying to make her family's legacy better for the public. I thought that's really what we were going to do, but then she chases after Arya, and after a long chase through the city, the wave tracks Arya down to an alleyway, but Arya pulls out Needle, cuts through a candle, plunging the room into darkness, and in the House of Black and White, Jaqen comes across Bloodsparrow, finds the waif's face hanging on the wall, and it's not really shocking that Arya killed the waif. I think you could see that she was going to do that. You could definitely see what was going to happen. And Jaqen then tells Arya that she has basically lived up. She is no one, but Arya doesn't want that anymore. She's Arya Stark of Winterfell. She's going home. She's now leaving. And Jaqen smiles and nods, and Arya confidently strides out of the room. And that is how this episode ends. And for me, this was just really predictable, I gotta say. And I think the main thing about this, the reason this was so predictable, is because I could totally see Arya being like, oh, all this time she's been like, I am no one, I am no one. All of a sudden, now it seems like, oh, no, I'm not no one, actually. I'm Arya Stark, and I'm gonna go back to Winterfell. Why didn't she just do that in the first place? I don't really understand that. Why did she have to go through this whole training thing? This whole thing with Jaqen, it seems pointless. It really didn't seem like it made her learn anything. It doesn't seem like it went really anywhere, and I really think Lady Crane should not have died. I would have loved to see more bonding between those two, because those have been some of the best scenes Arya's gotten all season, and really, I've never really been into this plotline, as you guys know. I think it's been really just whatever. I mean, the idea of her turning into no one, it would have been kind of cool to see Arya go in this direction, but right away she turns it down. No, she's going to leave. The episode's called No One. It's very much a paradox. A lot of people have said that. That is definitely a paradox, and I think it's really dumb overall. I think it was a really stupid direction. It just seemed like they wanted to keep Arya as someone to root for rather than someone to root against, and that's something I definitely did not like. I thought was really badly done, but that's how the episode ends. Let's get into this episode overall. So overall, not a bad episode, definitely. Just very, very predictable. Everything that happened, I could definitely see happening. The idea of Arya, now she's going to go back to Winterfell. It seems like she's going to possibly meet up with Sansa. I think that's what they're saying, is that they're setting up a Stark reunion. We know Sansa wants Winterfell for herself, and I feel like if Sansa gets it, then Arya will be there as well, which would be a really cute scene to see them reunite, but I just don't really know if that's what we need right now, if we need a Stark reunion. Lady Crane dying, I don't think should have taken place. I think Lady Crane definitely could have lived. I don't think she needed to die here. I don't know why she's dead. The Hound, will he take his position in the Brotherhood? I'm not really sure. That's going to be very interesting. Daenerys saving Tyrion and Grey Worm, yeah, of course, no shit she saves them. I could definitely see that happening. I really would have wanted to see Tyrion have to lead on his own and then have Daenerys come in. That would have been really cool. They didn't go in that direction. I think it was really dumb they didn't do that, and I really would have wanted to see more of that. Blackfish dying off screen just felt really weird. It felt really weird that Blackfish died off screen. And then everything with the Tully army. I mean, now it's Jaime. Jaime got what he wants. We'll have to see what happens with that. That's going to be interesting as well. And then as far as Cersei goes, Cersei is probably in the worst position right now, because Cersei did not get what she wanted. Trial by combat's now banned. She's probably not going to be innocent. She's going to probably be locked with the High Sparrow, and that's not going to end well for anyone. So we'll have to see where that goes. Overall, guys, like I said, not a bad episode by any means. Next week's episode looks awesome. I cannot wait for the battle. I mean, it looks like they're going Lord of the Rings style. It looks really epic. I can't wait to see the direction that goes. Jon Snow and Sansa and all those people versus Ramsay's army. It's going to be awesome to see how that all turns out. I cannot wait for that battle. That's going to be an awesome episode. Game of Thrones, I think one of their best things that they do is extended scenes with one character or focusing on one plot line. They do that so well, and I think the perfect example is going to be next week. I can't wait to see the way that goes. We remember how great that episode was with Jon Snow in Season 4, and I think this episode is going to be fantastic as well. I can't wait to see the way that goes. Remember that great scene last year in Hardhome. So I feel like the best scenes are with the best battles have been with Jon Snow. I feel like it's going to be the perfect example of that. I can't wait to see the way that all goes down. But overall, guys, I'm not you guys saw this episode. Love to hear your thoughts on it. We have two episodes left this season. I can't believe it, but things have been set for the season finale, definitely. And I understand why they had to end certain plot on this episode, because the season finale is going to be episode 10, and it looks like next week we're only focusing on Jon Snow and Ramsay, which is great because that's my favorite stuff going on right now. As you guys know, it's my favorite plotline all season, so I can't wait to see how that all goes down. But I will see you guys next week, which will be for tonight's episode of Preacher, and I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.